Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? The first thing I want to touch on tonight, Sean, and it goes to the AFC divisional game, Browns and Chiefs, and it was, of course, the play where the Browns hit the pass. The guy's going down. I think it was Higgins. Was going down towards the end zone.
I think you're right.
He stretches out. Boom. Big hit. We'll talk about the helmet-to-helmet portion of that as well. But, of course, ball comes out, goes through the end zone. It is not only is it not a Browns touchdown, it is Chiefs ball because the rule, if you fumble through the end zone, it is a change of possession. And so many people are calling this the dumbest rule in sports, which maybe this is a summertime topic when there's only baseball to discuss. That what exactly is the dumbest rule in sports? I don't know if this is the dumbest.
Yeah. We'll have to give us some prep time. Let me dig deep and find that one out.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't know if this is the dumbest rule in sports, but like. I doubt it. Let's dive into this rule because it got a lot of play, of course, this past weekend. The first thought in mind that comes to mind is when people start complaining about this rule, because you see it every time this rule gets enforced, is like,
yeah,
whether it's a dumb rule or not, it's still a rule. So if you know that, like, it is a player's responsibility to take that into account and protect the ball when they are down and around the goal line. Like, don't put yourself in that. Now, it's easier said than done. You get all jacked up on adrenaline and Mountain Dew and all that. That you are trying to score. You're behind in the game as the Browns were at this point. You're trying to complete the upset. So it is a challenging situation. I'm not saying it's easy to not try to score, but your primary thing to do is protect the football. If you're on offense, don't turn the ball over. I don't care if you're a running back, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, or if you're a lineman that ends up picking up a fumble. Your primary goal is to make sure the other team doesn't end up with the football.
Yeah, and I mean it's a situation that used to come into play before. Obviously it was tweaked several times as far as what is a catch, what isn't a catch, what is a fumble, what is a fumble, Des Bryant, Green Bay Packers, yada, yada, yada. And I used to always say, I'm like, whether or not you agree with what a catch is, like, it's in the rule books, and your job is to catch balls within those rules. So I used to always tell people, I'm like, so as a wide receiver, like, it used to be, guys used to get flack. I know Donovan McNabb did for like, well, I didn't know that you could end in a tie. It's like, well, how do you not know that and play it professionally? And I used to say that about the catch, like, well, I didn't know that wasn't a catch, or I didn't know I couldn't put the ball on the ground to stand up, or, there's all these little things, and I used to say, like, just secure the ball, go to don't leave it up to question, because it obviously is like this gray area where you don't know. And I feel like this is kind of the same thing. Like you said, it's pretty simple that if it's in the rule books and because the thing that nobody really talks about, the only time this comes into play is when it's going for the pylon. And unfortunately, the way the game goes is that's where a lot of people try to score, is near the pylon.
Because all you got to do is touch it.
The sidelines but I mean, let's be serious. If he fumbles that, if he's in the middle of the field between the hash marks and it goes the exact same way, gets hit at the same point, and the ball goes forward, there's no Browns there to recover it anyway. And on this particular play, and I talked to you a little about it before the show, the bigger issue I have for Higgins and for this particular moment, it's always bad when it happens in a playoff game. Because this happens, I mean, people talk about it during the regular season, but it's like bing, bang, boom, let's get ready for next week. Like, this is one where there is no next week. and it just worked out that way. And, if Pat Mahomes is in the game, does that score really matter? I don't know. But it did. And to me, it's like it wasn't a short play. I feel like it would be I'm not going to go the other way on the discussion, but I feel it's a more interesting discussion if, say, it was 4th and goal on the 2 and you're hit at the 1. Like, you have to stretch. Like, you have to put the ball, because you're going to give the ball back immediately if you don't get it over the plane anyway. So, like, yes, take the risk, stretch it out, do whatever you have to do to push it towards the goal line. If it slips out, so be it. Maybe somebody else grabs it. But, like, on this particular play, it was a long pass play, 1st down and then some.
Right, you're gonna have 1st and goal at the 1.
You're gonna have 1st and goal, and if he hugs it and keeps it to his body and prevents it from going anywhere, you're maybe at the 3.
Right.
Worse, like, you're looking at a 1st and goal. You're driving the ball. Pat Mahomes is like the momentum surging your direct. Like, why risk it on that play? And I know it's your job to score, and you get paid to score. This is the playoffs, though. It's no longer about personal statistics, and it's no longer. It's we need to win, and I need to give. And yeah, if you go to 1st and goal on the 3 and you run 4 plays and you don't get in, then people start questioning, like, well, should he have tried to score? There's always somebody disappointed in something in hindsight.
Sure.
Hindsight's the most ridiculous argument ever. Like, well, yeah, but we know that it was well, of course we know now. Like, so, like, I never try to argue with people who only talk about hindsight. Like, well, we know now after the game. Like, well, yeah.
Well, everybody does,
I also know who I should have bet on before the game. But I bet on the wrong one. So it's like, I don't know. I have a lot of issues with it. As far as the rule itself, I personally, I could care less if it gets changed, but I don't see a major problem, only because, like I said, most fumbles into the end zone, especially once you're in that short yardage scenario, you're fumbling into a part of the field where it's all defensive players. So, like, there's a good chance you're going to turn it over anyway, just because it got out of bounds, near the sidelines once it went in. Them's the breaks. I hate to say it. There's just not a lot of rules. Once you get past that goal line, it's the reason why it's a touchdown the second it hits it. That's just uncharted territory. It's no longer in offensive territory. You're done with your job. So to me, if the ball goes in there without you being in control of it, it's every man for himself. And if it goes out of bounds, that's the defense is defending that end zone, capture the flag style. And if they're able to get the ball out of your hands before you get in, why shouldn't they get the ball?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, there's a lot of rules that change in and around the end zone as well. I mean, if it's because I've seen people say that
it's the Bermuda Triangle in there.
Like, people say that, if you fumbled out of the end zone, the team who had possession should retain possession, but make it like 1st and goal back at the 25 or at the 35, or so you're penalized by moving the ball back, and you only have 4 downs, because if you're out at the 50 and you fumble and it goes out of bounds, you retain possession at wherever if it goes forward.
Well, and holding in the end zone, and all, like, if you have it at the other end of the field and you're running a play from your own end zone, you hold, all of a sudden it's a safety.
Right. So why is that not stupid?
In play,
it's just a penalty.
If you hold at the 1, it's a half-yard penalty.
Right. So why not make it a half-yard penalty and just put it right at the goal line?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's your, and like, I think so many people look at football and they think that your end zone is the one you're going for. Like, you're going for your end zone, you're trying to score the touchdown. Your end zone's the one behind you.
Right. You're defending
because
your
even
end
if you're
zone.
On offense, if you throw an interception, it's now your job to keep them out.
Right. Tell that to the Ravens.
It's a defensive zone.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
if you think about every other sport, hockey, soccer, basketball, everything is based on defending what's behind you. It's not, obviously you have to score what's in front,
right,
but you have to defend what's behind.
Because you're in your own end zone. It's your job to get out, to get that ball into the field of play, and to do it within the rules. I would argue, though, that having that come up in this discussion, holding in the end zone, if we're talking in the offseason about the dumbest rule in sports, I'm leaning now. That's
probably dumber than this one.
That's probably a dumber rule.
Yeah, like
why should an offensive lineman protecting his quarter, whatever, in the end, like,
and I get the argument for it is that if he doesn't make that hold, it's probably a sack, which would result in a safety anyway. But especially now with as mobile as quarterbacks are, tell me how many times the quarterbacks escape pressure inside the pocket.
And holding is such, like, as much as it is a by the book, like, this is what holding looks like. The trouble is that there's holding on almost every play, and
there is holding on every play. It's whether or not it gets called.
Just like there's probably pass interference on every play, and it's this judgment call of like, well, was it enough? And so you have these situations where, if that happens in a playoff game, where it's like, that looked like holding enough, 2 points to the other team, and they get the ball. Like, that's a safety can be a huge swing. And a lot of times, beyond one player trying to like get in and get the quarterback, that holding in the end zone is only responsible for one person. So whereas this is, I don't know. I think it's by the book for me. It's literally, you're trying to score. Like, defense, you didn't get in.
There has never been a point even when this rule was enacted, if you're following along in the live video, if you want to throw up your thoughts on this rule and what you think it should be, should they change it? Should they not change it? Is it good as it is? But like at no point since they enacted the rule did I think this is stupid. I never thought that it was a dumb rule. To me, like,
just don't fumble.
I guess it just kind of made sense that, if you fumble through the end zone, it should change possession.
Yeah, and I saw some suggestions when you had posted it on the Huddle Up Facebook page, and some folks were commenting on it, and there was a lot of folks talking about it, so people were watching the game. But I saw one that had jumped out of like all the other options was like, well, it should be fumbled in there, it should be put on the 20, and they should be allowed to go again. Like, and I'm like, well, okay, well, what down is it? Like, if it was third down, because like it doesn't always work. Like, because
right,
what if you were inside the 20? Like you're at the 3, and it's fourth down or third down. Fourth down would be a change of possession anyway, so like that would go to the other team. But like, or would it? If you fumble out of the end zone, then is it still a loss of down? Like, that's my question. Like, can I just throw it towards the end zone and be like,
I think this is the one. Bill says ball goes back to 20, but does not change possession. It stays with the offense, but they go back and start their red zone possession over. Either that or it's a dead ball.
Start it over implies that it would be first down. Like they would start over, and I'm like, and to me, like,
but what if it wasn't a red zone possession? What if it's a play?
Listening, feel free to comment and let us know what you meant. But like that seems ludicrous, especially in today's NFL. Like with the close, and it's always been the closer you get to the goal line, the less lanes there are. The defense has a lot of advantages inside the 10 and inside the 5 because you don't have as many places to be creative. And so to back today's offense is like a Pat Mahomes or a Russell Wilson, give them 20 yards of space after a mistake. Like, you're just like shooting yourself in the foot. Like, I don't know. I feel at very least it should be same down or loss of down.
Well, and like Bill says, he says, red zone possession would be start over. What if it wasn't a red zone possession? What if it was first? What if it was a 3rd and 15 from your own 47, and you hit a cross pass, and the defender just catches you down at the end zone, and you fumble,
kind of like this one,
right? And so does it? Do you then get the ball 1st and 10 at the 20, or do you have to go back to the 47?
Right, because Bill's solution, kind of implies that it's already been a red zone possession, that you've been in the red zone trying to score, and not every time. Most of these fumbles through the end zone happen in that scenario, but this one didn't. So it's like, okay, so and I see Jake's got the comment up here: keep the rule as is, or ball goes back to the previous spot with loss of down. Which, to me, if you're going to change
it, to me, that makes more sense.
That would be more logical, but it's still
illogical,
depending where the play comes. Because I mean, it would have been a big one on this one because it puts the Browns way back, and they lose the down. They may wind up not scoring even 3.
Right, you should definitely lose the down. Like, the team should not get a first down wherever the ball gets spotted. Like, if it was 3rd down and you fumbled out of bounds, it should then be 4th down. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?
Right, and let's not forget that the rule as it stands isn't awarding the defense any points.
No,
Like,
it's
not like
it's
it's a
literally a
safety.
change of possession.
You just turn the ball over. You know, I don't know. It just seems dumb to me that, like, if you're going to change that, because it's hard, especially in today's NFL, and we talk about it all the time, and I kind of alluded to it a few minutes ago. It's a very offensive league, and the defense has a lot stacked up against them with rules against hitting the quarterback.
Absolutely.
And can you hit them high? Can you hit them low? Can you hit a receiver after one step? Do you have to let him run past you and then chase him? Like, I feel there's a lot of rules against defensive backs and pass rushers, so as it is. And so to me, to take this, because this gives them one last shot to maybe get the ball back, to force that ball free. And in my opinion, I don't see any reason the rules should change, and I don't see any reason it's going to. The fact that it's not uncharted territory in the playoffs, but it's fairly uncharted because it just doesn't happen that often, at least not on a play like this. And so to make a rule change based on one playoff game, I get it's a big game for a franchise that's been starved for a long time, but enjoy your one win. You put on a good effort. You wound up playing half a game against Chad Henne. Like, if you wanted any more chances than that,
right?
Like, Godspeed. But
Jim here in the comments on that, and not me, a different Jim. He says, I don't mind the rule at all. This big boy football played at the highest level. Protect that rock at all costs. I wouldn't change a thing. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm with you. Like,
I don't see any reason, and I can see other sides and like why it's a thing, but like, I mean, this is one where, instead of complaining about, take the Philly route. I mean, I know we'll complain about officiating here and there, but I can tell you one thing: if he plays for the Eagles, I'm all over him. Like, I'm yelling at Higgins on that play. Like, what are you doing?
The referees didn't screw up.
Nope.
The referees made the right call.
The review. Yep. They did exactly what they should have done.
People big mad about a rule that will come up again every 5 to 10 years. I mean, this play happens now. It doesn't always happen in the playoffs. Like, this obviously is getting bigger attention because it happened in the playoffs. This is a rule that gets enforced, a few times a season.
A lot of people were rooting for.
Right.
There's a lot of people whining because, one, they were rooting for, and it can't even be that they were betting on them, because if you did, you covered. So, like, stop whining.
Right. Like,
some of us bet the Chiefs.
And that's the thing.
And we watched Pat Mahomes drop like a fly and stumble off the field and realize that money was dead.
Now the other part to that play that is kind of a separate issue in and of itself is the Chiefs defender did a like lunging helmet to helmet hit that, like, by rule should have been called because it was the leading with the helmet thing. And Browns fans are mad that wasn't called, which, first off, in real time, nobody saw the helmet to helmet.
No. And I watched it again right
especially
before
that official who's on Higgins' side. So he's not seeing helmet to helmet. He's also not looking at helmet to helmet. That official at that spot is looking to see if the ball is crossing the plane of the goal line. That's what that official's job is right there. So he's not seeing, nor should he be seeing, the helmet-to-helmet hit. Now, in college you have the rule, if it's, a helmet-to-helmet targeting, what have you, they have the ability to go to review and call the penalty there. So people are saying that this should now, the NFL should go the way of college, where you can review that play from the booth, or like that sort of a thing should be able to fall underneath the coach's challenge. Like,
yeah. And I'm going back to the replay to take a look at the helmet to helmet one more time. But I'm sitting through a Taco Bell ad because YouTube sucks.
Oh, I love Taco Bell though.
So I'm gonna like take another look at it, and I know when I watched it in real time, even again before this, I don't see it because it looks like he's hitting him on the side of his body. To me, and I know from the other angle you see it, but the issue is also like hitting with the helmet and leading with the helmet are two separate charges.
Which like, this one was both.
Because if your shoulder's coming first and your helmet makes contact while you're like trying to go for the body, now he lowers his head, probably should have been called. But again, like if they start watching for that and don't pay attention to the ball coming loose or something, and you make the wrong call there, it's even more detrimental.
Well, and I think that's where the argument is: should something like the helmet to helmet be eligible under like a coach's challenge?
And I'm watching it, and did the helmet hit? Yeah. Do I think that it was a malicious intent of lowering the head to hit him in the head? No. I do not think that's like watching that just twice now.
It's hard to rule intent though,
because the direction he's falling, they're almost falling in the same-ish direction, and it looks like he's going.
Oh yeah,
like
the defender's just trying. The defender's just trying to break up the play or knock the guy out of bounds. Whatever.
Most of his body is headed towards like the shoulders and upper rib cage, and his helmet just like the way they both fell.
In any sport, you can't really rule intent.
Right. Well, I mean, in college football, we call it targeting, a rule called targeting implies intent.
That rule needs to be changed anyway. Like the college rule,
there, but that's another talk for another day.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, could it have been called? Yes.
Personally, I don't have an issue if the NFL makes this or I mean, I guess if you want to expand it to all penalties. Within your two challenges, like don't give coaches any more challenges. But if you truly want to try, I know they did it with pass interference last year, but they could review it from the booth. But if you want to make penalties part of the two challenges, where if you lose a challenge, you lose a timeout, by all means, because the Browns could theoretically throw the challenge flag. They could rule the helmet to helmet, and go like.
Right. But then it's like, you open it up to like, because they're already dealing with it like what's reviewable and what's not. And certain things are and certain things aren't. Certain things are judgment. Certain things are by the book. And it becomes this gray area of like, and it happened like you mentioned with the pass interference, like very few got overturned because it's a very judgment call. I mean, I'm a guy that, helmet to helmet, I disagree with the call anyway. I don't like the helmet to helmet penalties. I think if you want to define it as, crown of the helmet, like if you want to make it more specific, I just think there's a lot of scenarios. And Jake points out one of the big reasons is it's one of these ones to protect offensive players. And he points out that it's under the guise of protecting both players. And does it save concussions on both sides? Sure. But these plays are still happening.
Sure.
It's just now a team's getting, dinged 15 yards for what used to be a really great play. We have Mark Thomas on the show, our buddy Marcus. Watching he's on the Penguin side of your puck.
Yeah,
tonight,
I don't want to talk about it.
We don't have to talk about that just yet.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah,
I have it on. I'll talk about it.
Well, maybe we'll talk about the Steelers next game in a couple of minutes. Maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, helmet to helmet. As much as I dislike some quarterback rules, I dislike a lot of the rules protecting quarterbacks. I get why they're in place. I even more hate rules protecting wide receivers. There's all these defenseless rules, and they have to make a football move, and they have.
The problem with the defenseless receiver rule is like
what receiver? Like when is Julio Jones defenseless?
Well, and like that's the thing. When a wide receiver is up in the air and he gets hit and falls ass over tea kettle, that's not a defenseless receiver. But a guy who catches a ball and is turning
has a foot on the ground
and gets hit, that's defenseless. To me, the guy in the air is more defenseless than the guy on the ground.
But nobody wants to change that rule because it's always been unspoken that if you're a quarterback and you hang your receiver up in the air to dry, that it's fair game.
Yeah.
And that receiver can be angry at you on his way back to the huddle. Or you can hang your head in shame as he gets carted off the field. Like whatever the situation is, like don't hang your receiver out there when Brian Dawkins is behind him. Or Eric Allen's behind him,
right?
Or Steve Atwater's behind him. Like those kind of plays used to end careers or at least seasons.
Like Ronnie Lott is going to F you up.
is going to break your ribs if you go up and catch that ball. And in an important play, you go up and catch it anyway because you can eat the downs, and you better hope your hands hold on when your ribs are breaking. So, like, there's all these things that used to happen that made football exciting and made it great. And I understand that it's also one of the reasons why a lot of these players don't remember half the games that they played. So,
no, I mean, I think.
Do I see a reason to like help cut down on the concussions? Yes. And do I think that there could be penalties for some of these hits? Yes. But I think you got to make it more specific, and you got to look at, in my opinion, there's enough judgment calls in sports. Decide if it was malicious. Decide if it looked like I'm going to spear you with my helmet. And if it didn't, if it looks like it was a coincidental helmet-to-helmet contact, even if it's direct, like if it looks like you were going one way, the receiver moved into the line of your hit, I don't think you should be penalized for that.
Like that's the thing. Like this play in the Browns game, to me, and I think it's what you're saying too, shouldn't necessarily fall in that helmet-to-helmet rule because he's trying to play the ball. Now, if a guy's, and if a defender is just coming in hot on his feet, sees the guy coming and purposely lowers his head to blow that guy out, then that I think probably would fall into it a little bit more because there's intent to lower the head there.
Right.
If you're diving to make a play, that's a little bit of a different story. And yeah, and I was just about to say this too. Offensive players can and do all the time, as Jake said.
Because at one point they had changed it where running backs could not. Because I remember it was a big deal with Adrian Peterson. That was just one of his
Marion Barber for the Cowboys did that all the time.
Yeah, it was one of his go-to. Like when you're going through the line, you lower that and you get yourself some space. Without
it's a little bit more lowering the because you're driving with your shoulder, but your head comes down.
Right.
But
so I think they adapted that rule again because they realized it was like near impossible for running backs and offensive players to not do it.
Right.
But yeah, if you're going to protect both players, then protect them in both scenarios. And if it's to me, if it's an intent, like call it something alluding to using your helmet as a weapon or whatever you want to call it, a spearing with the helmet, something like that, where offensive players can't do it either. Like an issue of like, to a certain degree, you can use the crown of your helmet, but you can't intentionally drive your head into somebody to with the intent to hurt or you have to find other ways to get them out of your way. So I don't know what the perfect answer is, and it would take me a lot of time to draw it up. And frankly, the NFL is not paying me near enough with my $0 salary to do that. If the NFL is listening, which I'm sure Goodell is, he listens to us all the time.
We will gladly take a job with the NFL to figure this out.
Let us know. 1 week check, 1 month check, however long you want us to sit down and talk about this. We will present the idea to you in its perfect form. And if you don't like it, you can kiss my ass.
But I'll make sure the check clears first. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?